Good morning and welcome to another episode here on the channel. See, it's very bright and sunny and washing out the lens. Oh well. A lot has happened since the last one. You can see this roof here. It's a nice little porch roof, keeps the rain off. Notice a chimney with smoke coming out, no less. I now have a stove. It's very, very nice, toasty. It warms up the little container in like 20 minutes. It'll be roasting. So I have to restrict the air so it doesn't just absolutely broil me. You can see the this little roof here is kind of slick how I attached it. At least I think it is. So I originally put some boards on the roof and just piled pallets on top of them to hold them down, and threw some sheet metal on the overhang. So it was just kind of a gravity-based system, and it worked. It kind of kept the rain off. But then I installed a stove, and right here on the inside I needed a hole for the chimney to go through, and so I just slid the sheets of metal out enough that a chimney would fit through. And then there's a nice little gap there, and when it rained, I would open the door and I would get a deluge of water. It would just drip, drip, drip onto my head and neck, down the back of my shirt. It was not very pleasant. So then I ripped that thing off, threw it on the ground, and I kept the metal. Metal, as you can probably see here, is not quite the right length of pieces, so I just kind of grabbed some other scraps and overlapped them. And then I used strapping here to tie it into the corners. And then down here on the side, I just was trying to figure out how I wanted to attach this, and I thought, well, maybe I could make little hook things that would latch in on that little indent there in the steel. But then I was like, that won't be very secure. I'll have to figure out a way to tension it in the center, and I'm just not so sure about that. So I just took tabs and I welded them on there. So if we ever want to, we can just cut them off. But until then, it's pretty secure. You can see the leftover pallets there that I originally used to hold down the roof on the front. I guess we'll start at the front. We might as well. Here you can see a little solar system. I built this for a buddy of mine who has a little trailer, and he and his wife want to have solar power in it so they can run an air conditioner and a computer and things while they travel around the country and see sights. And so this battery pack here has 490 lithium 18650 cells, which are basically the same batteries they use in Teslas. And I soldered them all together and fused them, and I got this little solar charge controller and battery management system and put it on the side, and obviously it's completely sketch right now because it's just like hanging here and waiting. I'm using it while I'm waiting for them to show up. Here in the side, 2500 watt pure sine inverter is pretty good. At the moment I'm not using it, I'm just plugged into the grid because I'm waiting for it to charge up. I just put it on here yesterday. Yeah, but it seems to work pretty good. I ran a 750 watt space heater on it for 5 hours, which mathematically should be within the realm of the reasonable, and it worked fine, and the batteries didn't even go completely dead, so it was pretty good. You can see here on the roof are the panels I'm using to charge it. There are 3 Renogy, I think that's how you say it, Renogy, 300 watt solar panels, and have them hooked in parallel because the charge controller has a max 50 volts, and the open loop current or open loop voltage on these are like 39 each. So obviously if I went in series I could get like 70 volts or plus, especially when they're cold in the morning, because the solar panels have a higher output when they're cold. So this should help, or it should work fine. Now let's move to the inside. Right off the bat, you'll notice a lot of changes. Here, I have a screen door. It's pretty nice. When it's warm, you can open it up and let the cool in. Still have lights. I have an ancient beat-up chair. But over here in the corner, the main attraction, at least in cold weather, the stove. took 2 propane cans and like old dead ones that had the wrong kind of valves on them, so they weren't any use for anything else, and I cut them in half and welded them together and attached a air inlet, all necessary accoutrements, and I have a little stove, a little fire going in there right now. Got the handle on there, you can see it flickering. It's nothing like fire, a little fire. Here in the corner, I've got a couple drying racks. You can throw your shoes on there, warm them up. Built these out of rebar and expanded metal. Found the expanded metal down in the floodplain. Washed it off, ground off the rust, and welded it all together. There's a little bit of a ripple in it right here in the middle, but it's not bad at all. It pounded out pretty good. Some hooks for hanging stuff. A sink. This is pretty sweet. See the very high quality kitchen here. I have it plumbed for cold water. I have it set up so I can put hot water on. That would be really nice, especially when it's cold, because you wash dishes and your hands go numb. But for now, cold water will have to do. Drying rack. It's all built in flush. Kind of how I want to do it, except it might be nice to have a catch basin there. Still don't have a burner. I want to get some stove burners sometime, but for now, this will have to do. We've got an oven, microwave, food storage, more storage up top, more storage in the bottom. We've got tools, food, more food, more food, more food, random stuff, clothes, motorcycle bags. Down here on this end, storage, 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 music, storage, storage, storage. I got a lot of storage. Motorcycle, outdoor, extra sleeping pad for if my family comes and visits. Backpack, other computer. More backpacks. Climbing gear. Yes, I have climbing gear. Now I need to find people to climb with so I can go more. More backpacks. Here where I work, got a couple monitors, cool monitor stands mounted to the walls. I'd like to build a standing desk so that I don't have to sit and so that my table won't touch the floor. And potentially I could weld this chair over here. I could cut off the base and then weld it onto a swivel that mounted to the wall. And then it wouldn't touch the floor either. And so I could just sweep the thing, the whole container out. Here in the corner we got motorcycle suits. Very, very nice when it's cold. This thing is not really insulated, it's more just protective, waterproof, windproof, but it is very, very nice. As anyone who's ridden a motorcycle knows, you can be very cold. Like, you can be absolutely freezing. You'll be shivering, and your hands will be numb. You'll be leaning down and putting them on the front of the engine on the oil cooler and just hoping that, like, you are praying for the time when you'll get home and you'll be able to climb off your motorcycle and get in a hot shower and thaw out. So yeah, the motorcycle suit is pretty amazing. Would recommend. Here, internet ingress. I have it covered because it has flickering lights on it. I don't like flickering lights. But that comes in. PoE adapter, wire, hole. And it goes outside to a Ubiquiti antenna. I got a fan here. Probably should have mentioned this earlier. It blows air around from the stove, and it blows down and across past the stove and then past the door. So if it's a little bit too warm in here, which happens quickly with this stove, you can crack the door a little bit, and then it'll blow the hot air across here and kind of draw a little bit of cold air and make warm air over in this area here, and then it'll swirl around and then continue, and it'll adjust the temperatures based on how far you open the door, at least when it's cold, and make it very nice. So I hope that you enjoyed this look at the container project. It's pretty nice, getting nicer. I've got a lot of plans for the future. I want to put solar, like my actual solar system, because this one in theory will belong to my buddy pretty soon, and then I won't have any solar. And so I want to get some Nissan Leaf batteries and put them together into a 14 series, which will make a 48 volt 7 kilowatt hour system. And this charge controller here, it's the 6024, so it's a 24 volt 60 amp. That's how their model numbers work. And so I have to get a different one of these guys. It'll be a 48 volt and different battery management systems, etc., different inverter. But all this stuff here should go to my buddy. Should get installed in his little trailer. I want to put in some electrical panels here so that I'll have breakers for all my circuits, because at the moment the incoming power, or if it's plugged into the inverter, it should have a breaker. Well, it does have a breaker back at the main panel where the extension cord comes from, but it's not ideal because that's a 20 amp breaker for a 20 amp outlet, and this wire here can handle 20 amps, but those wires there can only handle 15 amps. And so running from a 20 amp to a 15 amp wire is a really bad idea. And so I put Giphy outlets on them, which theoretically have a 15 amp breaker built into them. So theoretically, I'm fine. But that's a tad sketch, so I want to get a breaker box, and I might cut a hole in the wall like here, or I might go inside, because if I step right through the wall, I might put a hole in the wall like over there, and so I can swing the door open and access the breakers. But yeah, that's an upcoming project.